Before attempting to make an epic sci-fi film entirely by myself, I need to know if it's even possible. And I don't just mean filming something that I'm also in, but building and using an anamorphic phone rig, and then taking that footage and adding visual effects on top of it. So, I made a test film. Before I get into what I did, what I'm talking about is a film to test something, test a process, to test visual effects, to test a technique, to test some gear, just to see if what I'm gonna do for the actual story that I want to tell is even going to work. Now in this case, I want to make a short film entirely by myself with multiple parts and no help whatsoever. In order to do that, I need to know that the gear I'm using is going to work, and I don't need to be fighting it or struggling to use it. It needs to go quickly and smoothly. I'm using an anamorphic adapter for a cell phone. I don't have anamorphic lenses, I don't want to rent any, and so that's the only way I can get a specific look. I had already done a few test shots just to see if things would work. Some of them were entirely visual effects, some of them were footage I had filmed that I added visual effects to, but now it's time to see if I could do more, put it all together and see what that workflow is like. The phone rig was built out of camera rig pieces that I had sitting around. The rig will work, it's really easy to use. It does have some limitations. One of the nice things about it is because I'm using a second phone as a monitor to see what I'm doing on the first phone, I can just take it off really quickly, have it with me so that I can see what I'm doing rather than having to be behind the camera. Now I'll probably make a separate video about the phone rig that I put together because I'm not talking about it in too much detail here. Let me know if there's anything you're interested in or that you'd like to know about the rig that I built. So now that I had completed the rig, I needed to test it in similar conditions. In this case, out in the forest, the lighting's about the same, and then put it all together in the edit with a lot of visual effects to see if I could do what I wanted to. The thing is, I wouldn't know if it would work until after I made the film because part of what I was testing was adding visual effects to that footage. So if I had made a bigger film or something that I really cared about, I wouldn't know until I was all done filming whether or not it would even work. So what am I going to do differently? What did I learn that I'm going to change for the actual film that I'm putting together? I need to allow a lot of time. I rushed the process because I didn't have as much time as I would have liked, and as a result, I didn't get the information I needed to be able to better add visual effects to the shots. So before I actually film, I need to do some more testing with my gear. One of the things that will make my life easier, but is challenging to do when I'm filming by myself, is recording the lens, filter, and diopter combinations that I'm using for every single shot, especially for things where I'm adding visual effects. I tried to use a color chart, but I abandoned it pretty quickly for several reasons. One, I didn't want it to get wet, and two, it just added too much time to what I was trying to do. That's something I'll have to figure out about how useful it is, or whether I just need to do it once for a particular sequence so that I can still use it to better match shots or just get contrast where I want it. Since I just abandoned using it because of time primarily, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do for the bigger film. I knew that doing something by myself would require a lot of time, but this test film took me 4 hours to film. For the film that I want to make, I was thinking I need all day, but honestly, that might not be enough time, so I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. Granted, part of that was with no plan, and part of that was filming things that didn't actually make it into the final cut. Even though I wasn't focusing on story, I had some plot points that I just cut out altogether because they didn't really make sense, and it would have meant even more visual effects. Because I wasn't filming from a script, I made it up as I went, and in that case, I was filming things that I didn't even use simply because I didn't have a good plan. In editing, I didn't try to make the film perfect. I learned some lessons from it, but I didn't take those lessons to correct what I had done in the film. Those things will inform what I do for this other film, but it wasn't important enough to fix it at the time so that when I go to tell the story that I'm actually trying to tell, I can do it more efficiently, and I can ensure that I'm setting myself up for success rather than trying to learn as I go. Now, filmmaking, you're always learning as you go, but in this case, there were some things I needed to get right so that the story comes together easily and is something that I'm proud of. So I want to be able to spend the money in the right places. In the case of this other film, I'm taking that and putting it primarily on screen. But more than money, it's about spending time in the right places so that by getting a process down, I can focus on the film and telling the story that I want to tell without letting the gear get in the way. Since I'm also trying to make this film by myself, I need to be as efficient as possible. Should I do something that includes more people? I'd probably be stronger if I did, but I'm also doing this to test if I can make something entirely by myself. I also needed to figure out what types of effects I wanted and whether or not they would work with the footage that I captured. I have yet another film that I'm planning on, but I don't know if I want to do the effects in camera or with visual effects later. That one I'm playing around with more analog video and building some hardware for that. I don't know when it's going to come out, probably next year, so you might want to subscribe if you're interested to see what that's all about. I also wanted to learn new techniques. I'm trying things that I haven't tried before, adding things for visual effects that I haven't done before. And so doing this little film that there's really no pressure to make and it's not really that big a deal allows me to learn. It's basically a little miniature film school with a specific goal in mind. And it can kind of just be for fun with no pressure. Like with this little film that doesn't really have much of a story, I can just go do something, make it, and I'm not really as invested in the results, so I can just learn and play and have fun. So like I said earlier, making a test film is a good way to try something out or learn something, but there's some reasons why you might not want to do it as well. For one, it's going to take time away from what you actually want to make. And you need to make sure that you're using it to actually test something that you're going to use for the film that you're making, rather than trying to perfect the test film. Just play and test, but don't try to make it perfect because that's not the point. And it takes time away from the actual film, the thing that you're trying to make. So you have to decide, is it worth taking a little bit of time to put in some energy to learning a technique or playing with some gear or trying something out? Will it make the actual film that much better? Or is it just a waste of time that prevents you from making what you actually want to make? And if you want to watch the test film that I put together, you can watch it right here.